Hi, and welcome to this recording when I'm going to go into a little bit more depth about what a balanced scorecard is. So, in the presentation, I'll define what a balanced scorecard is and why it's called balanced, and then four areas of the scorecard and which kind of key areas it looks at, and then talk a little bit about how key performance indicators or KPIs fit in, and then look at a balanced scorecard example, which of course we have one from Marketplace. So, a balanced scorecard was developed by Robert Kaplan and David Norton in 1992, and it's sometimes referred to a BSC, Balanced Scorecard. It's a framework to implement and manage strategy, and it links a vision to a strategic objective, measures, targets, and initiatives. It balances financial measures with performance measures, and that's why it's important. It's a business performance management tool. So it's an easy way for managers to look at things that's going on in the business, see how the business is performing, and then make corrections or changes as needed. It is more than just financial measures, and that's why it's balanced. It includes other important factors, which I'll work through. It's not just a scorecard either. It's really a bigger thing. It's a methodology and mindset. So, in a lot of organizations that use them, and it's used all over the place, and they're looking at a few key indicators, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, and they're trying to see how the business is being operated. You obviously have to select those indicators, but then primarily everyone is in the same kind of mode. They know exactly what things they have to look at to change, and which scores are going to be primarily judged on, and how the business is being judged. So it is identifying a small number of financial and non-financial objectives, all related to your strategic priorities. It then looks at measures, and then from those measures, it sets targets. So you say, okay, I want my customer my customer satisfaction score to increase to a level of, I don't know, 35%, right? And then you're setting a target for that. But how are you going to measure it, right? So you have to figure out how you're going to measure it too. It finally focuses on strategic projects, often called initiatives. And so those initiatives hopefully will drive that. So what do we have for customer satisfaction that might drive customer satisfaction? Well, it could be training of customer service representatives or something like that. So then if we only change one thing in our particular already, what we're already doing for customer service, and our customer satisfaction scores go up, then we can say, well, then there is reason to believe that, it was our training that provided that uplift. So balanced scorecard forces an organization to think about how objectives can be measured, and only then identifies the projects to drive those objectives. It avoids creating costly projects that have no impact, right? And then the balance, as I mentioned, is brought about by not only focusing on financial, but other factors as well. And so those other factors are financial, of course, but customer, internal processes, and organizational capacity. So let's look at these individually. We'll take a look first at financial. So financial is obviously the high level objectives of the company. I mean, you're there to make money. And so financial measures, you'll have to look at which things are going to be important. Of course, sales are always a good metric, but so are obviously profit, right? So profit is important because you're taking out the cost that you have to look at the profit. So how do we look to our stakeholders is what we're trying to show in our financials. Financial objectives are usually the easiest to define and measure because they're always being tracked. And however, creating financial objectives like improved profit rarely provides a clue as to how to achieve the objective. By linking objectives from lower levels in the model, we begin to see how those change because these financial metrics are really high level and overall. But if there's something wrong in the business, it's further on down. And then when you change that, then your financial measures could change. So we talk next about customer. So customer has objectives and measures that are directly related to your customers. And generally you focus on their satisfaction, but you want to ask yourself, how do our customers see us, right? You don't want to necessarily say, oh, I know what our customers want. You need to know what they want and what they're telling you they want. So it's always important to take a step outside and view your company from that viewpoint. You need to understand what they want from you, not necessarily what you can do for them. And that's the value that you are providing. In week one, I talked a lot about value. And of course, that's what they find in terms of a need satisfying ability of your particular company. The next thing is internal processes. So internal processes are objectives and measures that determine how well the business is running in terms of its operations. So whether the products and services to conform to what we require of customers and what should we be best at. And some of the big cost items can be reduced by streamlining internal processes. So if we find some areas for improvement or waste, then we want to kind of streamline those to improve them. And then obviously our costs will decrease and hopefully our performance will increase. And so the last piece here is organizational capacity. And those are objectives and measures concerning how well our people perform, their skills, training, company culture, leadership, and knowledge base. A lot of human resource elements in here. This area also includes infrastructure and technology. So it's about not only our technology, but our facilities perhaps, and the infrastructure we have in those facilities to carry out what we need to. Organizational capacity tends to be the area where the most investment takes place because these things, infrastructure and technology and people, are fairly expensive. But it answers the question, how can we improve and create additional value? The real value of the perspective approach is that it provides a framework of all of this particular approach. It focuses on objectives and measures that both inform us about progress and allows us to influence activities to achieve the strategy. So KPIs are an important part, right? So we have to select the key indicators that we're going to look for. We have to figure out how we measure them, and then we're going to select the ones that seem to be most appropriate to one of the measures that we're going to be looking at, whether that's finance, customers, operations, whatever. It is one small number of measures that are designed to reduce the complex nature. So basically that so people can go in and look at how things are going and summarize it pretty quickly and easily. So this is an example of a balanced scorecard. And so you see the 4 factors here: financial, customer, internal processes, and organizational capacity. And then what this particular one does, and not all of them do this, but they look at the strategic objectives. They don't all do it this way. There are many different ways of doing it. But primarily they're talking about what do we need to do for organizational capacity, improve knowledge and skills, improve technology, improve supply chain. And you see how they have connections to what they will do. Then they improve offering selection, improve information services, improve stock reliability, improve cost control. And they have influences on what? Well, decreasing operating costs. Improving cost control obviously goes right to that. But for customer, it improves clarity of offering, improves market perceptions. You can see how these are connected, which is an important element of the balanced scorecard. And then, of course, up here, they have the overall organizational vision and the purpose, and then the strategic priorities: content partners, customer service, brand awareness, and then the strategic results that you're looking for. Now, here they have KPIs that they've selected to go along with each particular function. So for organizational capacity, they have employee development plans. And so they want to see how many, and they have targets too. So what percent of those employee development plans are in place? 95% in place, right? Technology training index, 90% efficient. So they've effectively put some targets down here. Now, we don't necessarily know, those could be goals. We don't know necessarily how they're performing against those. I'm also familiar with balanced scorecards that show, well, if you said you're 95% in place and you expected to be 98% in place, that says something different than if you said you were 90% in place, right? So one is performing better and one is performing worse. Here for internal processes, new products as a percentage of sales, brand awareness score, and cost efficiency index. So the targets they have for here is new products as a percent of sales is 12% this year. Brand awareness, they want to increase 5% this year, and cost efficiency index to be greater than 90% every reported period. And again, we don't know how they're performing against those. For customer, they have market share index, customer satisfaction index, and then focus group user index, which I'm not sure what it is, but again, they have targets for all of those. And the high level financial ones that they've selected are net profit, operating costs, and revenue in our target markets. And those are the references that I used for this particular PowerPoint presentation. And that concludes this recording on balanced scorecards and how KPIs fit into balanced scorecards.